How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Zayin? Sure, why not? Of Masechta BavaMetzia. Fence. Yeah, right. Lamed Zayin of Masechta BavaMetzia. It's going to be great. What are we talking about? Whatevs. I don't know. We're talking about BavaMetzia stuff. Okay. Lamed Zayin, Masechta BavaMetzia. We're going to start at the Mishnah, about 10 lines into the daf or so. Omer lishnayim gazalta le'echad mikem mono ve'eni yodeh eze mikem givaldig. So, Ruvain says to two people, he says to them, I stole from one of you two people. I don't know which one of you two people. Alternatively, Oviv shel echad mikem hifkid li mono ve'eni yodeh eze hu. Or he says to these two people, look, one of your fathers deposited money with me, and I guess he's gestorben now, and I don't know whose father it was. That's what I was looking for earlier. Wait 1 second, let me just look for something. Okay. Wait, where was... No, okay. Anyways. Okay. Okay, fine. So, okay, two scenarios, right? You have a guy, he says to two people, I stole from one of you, I'm not sure who I stole from. Alternatively, one of your fathers deposited money with me. I'm not sure whose father it was. He pays to both. He pays, right, it's a mana, so $100. He pays $100 to each of them. Shnaim shevkidu eitzel echod. We saw this earlier in the Masechta, on Daf Gimel or so. That was already a month ago. A month into BavaMetzia. BavaMetzia is great, right? This is awesome. Nizikin, Bava Kama, BavaMetzia, Bava Basra. So far, it's been a blast. Shnaim sheifkidu eitzel echad zemana v'zemasayim. So we've seen this before. Two people deposited money, right? I kind of want to avoid Reuven, Shimon, Levi if I can. Two people deposited money by somebody. One of them deposited $100. The other one deposited $200. Comes time to pick it up, and guess what happens? Each one somehow is claiming that they are the one who deposited the $200, and they should get $200. Now the custodian, what does he do? One of them is meant to get 100. One of them is meant to. The other one gets 200. They're both claiming 200. What does he do? No, saying lozemona velozemona. Well, the common denominator is 100, right? They definitely both each get 100, right? One of them gets 100. The other one is meant to get 200, which obviously includes 100. So give each of them 100. Okay, now there's the question of this remaining 100. Who does it go to? We don't know. And with regards to the remaining 100, leave it. Just leave it. When Elijah the prophet comes, he'll tell you who it belongs to. Elijah the prophet, he won't be so busy. He'll have plenty of time to let you know. If this $100 goes through Reuven and Shimon, who's the shmendrik? Omer B'yesi says B'yesi imkin ma'if sara amoy elakol yemunich at shaveliyahu. B'yesi says, wait a second. The liar needs to have some skin in the game, right? Rabbi Yossi pushes back against the Tanakama and says, Tanakama, you're making it too easy for the shmendriks, right? The shmendrik deposited $100. The other guy deposited $200. According to Tanakama, there is nothing stopping the shmendrik from being a shmendrik. The shmendrik is owed, he deposits $100. So of course, what he's entitled to retrieve is $100. He shows up and claims $200. According to Tanakama, we still give him $100. The only thing that happens is he causes the other guy to lose out on his $100. So the guy who really deposited $200 can now only collect $100. But the shmendrik deposited $100, he's getting back $100. We said each of them can collect $100. The question is about the second $100. But Rabbi Yossi says, according to that, you're basically emboldening the shmendrik to be a shmendrik. So rather, Rabbi Yossi says, no, the shmendrik needs to have skin in the game. He has to know that if he comes and claims that he deposited 200, well, guess what? Nobody's getting anything until Elijah the prophet tells us how to move forward. And therefore, the shmendrik hopefully will think twice about being a shmendrik, and he'll just say, $100 and be happy with that. Because if he says $200, then nobody's getting anything. And similarly, if you have two vessels, one of them is valued at $100, the other one's valued at $1,000. And comes time to pick it up, and each one claims that theirs is the $1,000 vessel. Okay, so one of them gets the $100 vessel, and then the other one they break, and they take a piece of it that's worth $100, and they give that to the other one, so both of them get $100, and then the rest of it, will just sit there until Elijah the prophet tells them who can get the rest of it. Okay? So again, so one of them gets the $100 vessel, and then from the larger $1,000 vessel, you break it, and and you give a piece of the larger vessel that's worth $100, you give that to the other fellow. Vashar, the rest of the vessel, of the larger vessel, will just wait for Elijah the prophet to tell us how to proceed. And again, says Rabbi Yossi, but then the shmendrik does not lose anything. He deposited a vessel worth $100 and he got back a vessel worth $100. He loses nothing by being a shmendrik. There's no consequences for being a shmendrik. Rather, says Rabbi Yossi, everything waits for Elijah the prophet to tell us how to proceed, and the shmendrik gets nothing for being a shmendrik. He has to wait. He doesn't get his vessel back. Okay. Says the Gemara, Alma misfeika mafkinon mamona velo amrino nuki mamona b'chezkas morei. Do ba da 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 ha ha. Do ba da bam 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 ba da dam. Do 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 ba da 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 da. Okay, Chaver. So what happened? What happened is, okay, you have a guy who goes to two other guys and he says, look, I stole from one of you. I don't know who I stole from. So we say, okay, pay both of them. You stole $100? Give a $100 bill to each of them. So now says the Gemara, okay, if that's the case, Alma, so from here we see, Misfeika, out of Suffolk, we don't know who gets the money, right? Potential candidate number one or candidate number two. We don't know. He doesn't know who he stole from. And we say give to each of them $100 then. So mafkinon mamona, misveka mafkinon mamona, that out of Suffolk, out of doubt, we don't, right? Okay, fine. Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, right? Reuven stole, and he's telling Shimon and Levi, I don't know which one I stole from. So we're saying, Reuven doesn't know if he stole from Shimon or from Levi. Well, he's got to pay up. Mafkinon mamona. We sort of force Reuven to cough up the money double out of Suffolk, right? He stole $100, and we say, okay, give $100 to each. We don't say, you know what? Since it's a suffix, since it's a doubt, just leave the money where it is. Don't do anything. We don't say that. Instead, we say, cough it up. We have a contradiction. From our Mishnah, we said, I may as well stick with Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Shimon and Levi both deposited money with Reuven. One of them deposited $100. The other one deposited $200. Each claim that they were the one who deposited $200. Okay, so the common denominator is $100, so they each get $100. What about the remaining $100? We don't know what to do with it. So what do we say in that case? Leave it! Don't touch it! Just leave it alone! Don't do anything! And the rest just waits, just sits, do nothing. So we see that when there's a suffix, when we don't know what to do with something, we just leave it. So shouldn't we say the same thing here? Reuven doesn't know if he stole from Shimon or Levi. They don't know either, apparently. And here we're saying though, we don't say, you know what, forget it, leave it. We don't say that. We say Reuven needs to cough up money and pay each of them $100. Skip Amalei. So Pikadon a Gezel Karamis, to which the Gemara says, 1 second. Those are two separate cases. The first case is a case of theft. The second case is a case of deposit. It's no surprise, it should not be a surprise that in the case of theft, when Reuven is a thief, he needs to cough up extra money in order to settle the situation. When it comes to a deposit, however, so then we say, you know what, we don't know who gets this $100, we don't know who it belongs to, so just leave it. That's right, so let's go weiter. Gezel to Ovid Isura, when it comes to the ratio of the Mishnah, which is theft, that Reuven did something wrong, he stole, well then, Kansur Rabbanon, the rabbis fined him and said, cough it up. Pay $100 to Shimon and Levi respectively. Pikadin, the loya avad isura, lo kansur rabbanon. But when Shimon and Levi deposited money with Reuven, he didn't do anything wrong, and therefore we say Reuven just leave that $100 until Elijah the prophet comes. V'rami pikadin a pikadin, v'rami gezel a gezel. Now 1 second. 1 second. We have questions. Our halachic rulings when it comes to deposits seems to be inconsistent, as well as our halachic rulings when it comes to theft seems to be inconsistent. And we shall explore this. So, where am I? So, Rami Pikadon na Pikadon, Rami Gezel a Gezel. Pikadon na Pikadon. Here is the contradiction when it comes to deposits. The Katani Reisha, the first part of the Mishnah says, Oy aviv shel echod mikem hifkid etzli mana ve'en yodeh ezehu, noisin loze mana ve'loze mana. The Reisha of our Mishnah says that when Reuven says to Shimon and Levi, look, one of your fathers deposited money with me, I don't know whose father it was. The Mishnah says Reuven needs to pay each of them $100. So we see that out of Suffolk he's paying when it comes to deposits. But then the Mishnah goes on and says that Shimon and Levi each deposited money with Reuven. We don't know who deposited 100, who deposited 200. So we say it waits with regard to the final $100, to the disputed $100. What? So in the Reisha, when we have a suffix, we say cough it up. In the Sefer, when we have a suffix, we say just don't do anything. Whew. What do we do? Omar Rove, says Rove, Reisha naise kimi shevkidu lo bishnei krichis dehavole lemeidak. Sefer naise kimi shevkidu lo bekerech echod telo avoled lemeidak kegon dehavkidu tarvayu ba'de'adodu b'chad zimno. Ta'amilu ant gufaychu lo kaptisu adodi ono Kopidna? So the answer is that the case of the Reisha and the case of the next case in the Mishnah, they are different. They are different. In what way are they different? Well, we say that the Reisha is like a case where, so Ruvain is the custodian, and let's say you have a scenario where Shimon comes on Sunday and he deposits money with Ruvain, and then on Monday, Levi comes and deposits money with Ruvain. There were two separate transactions, two separate bundles of money that's being deposited. So Ruvain should be paying attention, like, oh, that's Shimon, and he's depositing that amount of money. Oh, that's Levi, he's coming the next day. Okay, and he's depositing that amount of money. In that case, Ruvain should be paying attention to who's depositing what. And therefore, he's going to be liable to pay each. And therefore, therefore, in the case, when Ruvain is saying to Shimon and Levi, look, one of your fathers deposited with me, and I don't know whose father it was, well, dude, get with the program. You should have been paying attention who's depositing stuff with you. The Seifa, though, the next case, when we're talking about Shimon and Levi both deposited with Ruvain, one of them 100, the other one 200, well, that is like a case where they both deposited the $300 in one bundle. That, it's not, we don't expect Ruvain to necessarily know who did what. Where he expects, that they all put it together in one bundle. Shimon and Levi must know who's got what in that bundle, right? There's less of a expectation or requirement on Ruvain to know who what belongs to who in that case because they all came in one bundle, and therefore the scenario and what makes the scenario of Shimon and Levi with the 100 and 200 like it came in one bundle, what makes it like that is that they both came together. Reuven and Shimon and Levi had both come to deposit their respective $100 and $200 by Reuven. They came together. So because they came together and they each saw what each other had, the one with 100 obviously knows that he had 100. He saw that the other guy had 200. The guy with 200 saw that the other guy had 100. So Reuven says to them, people, if you guys didn't even pay attention to what you have, why are you expecting me? Why are you holding me accountable to something that you guys didn't even pay attention to? Right? So back in the Gemara, let's read that again. Omar Ravi, two lines before it gets wide, says Ravi Reishe, that in the first case where we said that Reuven has to pay each of them, it's like a scenario where they deposited when Shimon and Levi deposited in two separate bundles with Reuven, that he should have been paying attention to who's depositing what. They're separate deposits that they're leaving. He should have been paying better attention. So therefore, he has to. If he wasn't paying attention, then he has to pay each of them. Right. So in this case, when he's not sure if it's Shimon's father or Levi's father, well, he should have been paying attention. It's his fault, and he needs to pay $100 to both Shimon and Levi, respect each. However, Seifa with Shimon and Levi, where they deposited one of them $100, the other one $200. Seifa naisek mishevkidu lo bekerech echad. That's more like a scenario where they would have both put their money into one bundle to lo havale lemeidak. That we don't hold Reuven to that same standard that he should have known exactly what belonged to. He received it all in one bundle. Kigon, for example, the afkidu tavai ba'adei adade. For example, if Shimon and Levi both came with their money, $100 and $200 respectively, together, bichad zimna at the same time. That now comes time to pay, and each one is claiming the $200. Reuven says, "Listen up, people." The He says to them, you yourselves weren't even paying attention to what you're doing. Ono kapidno. Is it my responsibility to be paying attention to something that you yourselves aren't even paying attention to and don't even know? So therefore, that is why that final $100 just waits for Elijah the prophet. Okay. Vrami gezel gezel. And we also have kashas when it comes to the halachas, when it comes to theft. Because katani hacha, because our Mishnah says, Amr l'shnayim, gazalti le'echad mikem, mana ve'eni yodeya, eze mikem. That when Reuven says to Shimon and Levi, look, I stole $100 from one of you, but I don't know which one. Or aviv shel echad mikem ifkid li mana ve'eni yodeya eze. Right, or one of your fathers deposited money with me, I don't know which one, with whose father. So the halacha is, what's more important for our scenario is when he says that he stole from one of them. No saying lozimana v'lozimana. So we say that Reuven pays each of them a mana. Right, so by theft, we're saying that Reuven says to Shimon and Levi, look, I stole $100 from one of you, I'm not sure which one. So he pays both of them each $100. Each one gets $100. We have a contradiction. If a fellow stole from one of 5 people, and he doesn't know which one is the victim. Gazal, who did he steal from? Zeomer Osi Gazal, Zeomer Osi Gazal, and each one claims that they are the victim. So now what does he do? Okay, Zomer Osi Gazal, Maniach Gezele Beineim, Umistalik to Reb Tarfon. Says Reb Tarfon, he just push it, drops the $100 in the middle and runs for it. So in our Mishnah we're saying that when he's not sure if he stole from Shimon or Levi, he pays each of them the $100, and yet we have a brisa in which Reb Tarfon says that if a fellow stole $100 from one of 5 people and he doesn't know which one it is, just drop it and run. You don't need to give $100 to each. Just take $100, drop it on the floor and run for it. So ama misfeika lo mafkinon mamona. So rather, out of the suffix, right, he just takes the $100 and leaves it there. And in terms of, what about the fact that he might owe it to this person and to that person? Maybe he owes it to the third person. We don't do anything about that. Lo mafkina mamona, or misveka lo mafkina mamona, out of the suffix, we're not going to require the ganif to pay extra money. We say, look, with regard to the suffix, with the extra people, just keep all money where it is. The ganif does not need to cough up extra money. So on the one hand, our Mishnah seems to be saying that when he's not sure, he has to pay everybody, and yet we have a brisa which says that when he's not sure, just take just throw the amount that you stole on the floor and run for it. Well, that brisa was Reb Tarfon. Reb Tarfon is the one who says, just drop it on the floor and run for it. How do you know that our Mishnah is Reb Tarfon? Maybe it's 2 different Tanoim. Our Mishnah is one Tana who says, or there's a goes to him and says maybe it's Rabbi Akiva, right? Because Rabbi Akiva argues on Reb Tarfon. Rabbi Akiva argues on Reb Tarfon over there, and says actually he does need to pay each of them. So maybe our Mishnah is like Rabbi Akiva. Well, the Katani Allah, the Ahi, but yeah, it was taught about that scenario with the 5 people. Mod Reb Tarfon, that even though Reb Tarfon says just take the money, drop in the middle and run, he does admit, however, that however in a scenario where Reuven says to Shimon and Levi, I stole from one of you and I'm not sure from who, that over there he does have to pay each of them. So first of all, that sounds exactly like our Mishnah, so it would make sense to say that our Mishnah is in fact Reb Tarfon. But then the question still begs to be asked, why? How come by 5 people it says just drop the money in the middle and run, and by 2 people say pay each of them? So Hasam de Katavile Hacha Bivalotzes Yidei Shomaim. This is what I was looking for before. Here's the answer. The answer is that when it comes to the 5 people, he's talking about Me'ikra Din. Each of those 5 is coming to the Ganif and saying, you owe me $100, you owe me $100, you owe me $100. Each one is claiming that they are owed $100. And he says, look people, I'll tell you something. Fact of the matter is, Me'ikra Din, all I need to do is drop the money and run. I don't need to pay each of you. Me'ikra adin. And that's what he does. In our Mishnah though, when he says that he's paying each of them, is bebalotzi sidei shamayim, because look, at the end of the day, if he stole from, if Reuven stole from Shimon, but he gives the $100 to Levi, well, he hasn't resolved. The fact of the matter is, he stole from Shimon, he never paid back Shimon. Right? So meaning technically me'ikra adin, when it comes to a suffix, there's no responsibility for him, right? We're not going to take money away from him from suffix and force him to pay everybody. Yeah, me'ikra adin, we're not going to force him to do that. But so long as Shimon, who he stole from, has not been reimbursed, well, there's that. There's right, that's always going to be with him. The fact that he stole from somebody and that person never got reimbursed. So if he wants to kind of just put that behind him, then he would pay everybody, which is what our Mishnah is talking about. If you look at the Mishnah, what does it say? It says, no sein, no sein, because Reuven admitted on his own initiative. So meaning we're talking about a scenario not where he's being claimed from, but where he wants to kind of, be Yotze Yidei Shemaim, he wants to kind of put this behind him. Omer Mar, we said, Hosam Dika Tave Le V'hala. Okay, Omer Mar, Hosam Dika Tave Le, okay. So we said that by the scenario with the 5 people, they're all claiming, hey, you stole from me, hey, you stole from me. Each one's claiming that they were the victim. And what was he saying? So each one is saying to the Ganif, you stole from me. You stole from me. No, you stole from me. What's he saying? What's the Ganif saying? So awesome to Kotavile. So there they are all claiming from him. V'hala matoyin. What's the Ganif saying? So if Yudah Marab halashosek, if Masna Marab halatzavach. So according to Yudah Marab, he's not saying anything. He's shutting his yapper. He's zipping his lips. Right, but Rav Masna says in the name of Rab halatzavach, that he's screaming and yelling. They're saying, you owe me money. He's saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Says Rashi Omer, I don't even know you. So according to Masna Marav, who says that he's yelling and screaming, but if he would have been quiet, that would be admitting to each of them that he owes them money and would have to pay them. But as long as he screams and yells and protests, so then he could just drop the money and run. Manda Omer halashosek, according to Yudah Marav, who says that he's being quiet, shtika da'acha lav ke'odaya. Who? That silence over here is not admittance. Because Matzu Amar Le, because he can respond, Hai deshtiki, the reason why I'm being quiet, l'chol chad v'chad, to each person, the amina dilma hayu, because at the end of the day, I do recognize that I stole from one of you, I just don't know which one. So therefore I can't, I obviously can't respond and say to each of you that I didn't steal from you. So I'm just keeping quiet because maybe you are the one that I did steal from, but it is not an admittance to each one of them that I stole from them. 1 second. I thought that maybe I heard the power washers. They come throughout the day. I recorded 2 days dafs this morning. 2 days ago's daf this morning. They were power washing, but they come throughout the day. They come in the morning, they come in the afternoon. They're always around in their very noisy truck. But not now. But now it's just the people. There are people in the park. They're making noise. But I have my noise canceling headphones. Changed my life. Must be funny to go back if we listen to Babylon Talmud from like Masechta Gittin or something like that. Oh my gosh, probably every episode it was just me complaining, screaming and yelling like the guy over here to these who's calling them a ganif. Omer Mai, we said Maneach Gizela b'neimu mistalik. Okay. So we had said that in the event where, they're all saying, he stole from one of 5 people, they're all claiming that they're the victim. So he just drops the money and runs. Vishakli la kulu va'azle, but that means that then they're basically all going to divide it up among themselves, which means that the victim is never going to get repaid. We had learned, where did we learn this? And Daf Chafei, that Sofek Inuach Lo Yitol, that if you find an item in a place where it's unclear if maybe somebody left it there intentionally or not, so then just leave it. And whoever left it there will come and get it, because once you take it, but once you take it, don't give it back, because they can't prove that if they can't prove that it's theirs, well then don't give it back. So don't take it, leave it, because if somebody may have placed it there intentionally, then just leave it for them. But once you take it and somebody comes and says that it's mine and he can't offer any proof, well then you can't give it back to him. So we see that once you have something and you're not sure whether or not to give it back, you don't give it back, you just leave it. So here you have a guy stole from one of 5 people, he doesn't know who to give it back to, so he should just leave it. So Rav Safra says, well, what he should do is, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting answer because it's a little bit unclear how exactly, you have to somehow kind of wrangle it into the text. But that's what Rav Safra is saying you're right. What you do is you leave it in front of Bezdin, you take it to Bezdin, you leave it in front of Bezdin, and you let them kind of figure out who's in fact owed the money. And if you can't figure it out, then you just kind of then you do just kind of hold on to it until you could figure that out. I'm going to figure out how to read that back into that stuff. Okay. Interesting. Amar Abai leRove, now says Abai to Rove. Amar Abakiva, does Abakiva really say Lo zo aderech mitziaso mide aver ad shisham gzel chad v'chad? So it says Abai to Rove. Okay, so we had this scenario, right? Somebody stole from one of 5 people. He's not sure which one. Okay, so apparently Reb Tarfon had said you just take the money, drop it, and leave it. Although we just said that we don't necessarily do that. Okay, Rabbi Kiva says that you have to pay each of them. Rabbi Kiva says you have to pay each of them. So it sounds like So let's read this. Let's read that back inside. So Abai leRava says Abai to Rava mi Rabbi Kiva. Does Rabbi Kiva really say Lozo aderech motziasu midei avera, that this is not, Reb Tarfon's suggestion is not the right way for Reuven for the Ganif to solve a situation? Ad she'yishalem gezel l'chol chad v'chad. He must pay each of the 5 people, and only that way he can be sure that he's resolved the situation. So Amma misveika mafkinan mamin. So that means that according to Rabbi Kiva, that misfeka, when we're not sure, we don't know who the money goes to, which of the 5, he says mafkinan mamona. We force him, the ganif, to cough up the money. We don't say just leave the money where it is, since there's a suffix. We have a contradiction. This next shtickle, I think, is one of 2 things that I remember from 8th grade. And when I say I remember, my point is not that I knew more 25 years ago. How many years ago? 36 minus 12 is 24. Yeah, 20, around 25 years ago, but I've forgotten over the years. No. In 8th grade, I think I probably only knew 2 things the entire year. I think this was one of them. I don't even know how well I knew it, but I seem to remember my Rebbe trying desperately to explain it. Probably nobody understood it. I think I finally got it, or at least I thought I got it. This was one of the 2 things. The other thing is Ein Ritzoni Shepiktoni Bi'ad Acher. I don't think I knew what it meant, but I remember my Rebbe kind of jumping up and down and saying Ein Ritzoni Shepiktoni Bi'ad Acher. That's basically what I remember from 8th grade, I think, or ever knew. Okay, where am I? Oh my gosh, this is daf that takes a lot of koyach, this daf. This daf takes a lot of koyach. I have another daf to record it right after this. I'm going to do it back to back. Okay. And here we go. So here we go. So we just said that when it comes to these 5 people and you don't know who you owe the money to, you have to pay each of them. Okay? So if we have a contradiction. Nafal abayis olav alimos. So you have a scenario where you have a mother, and the mother has property. She has property. She has property. Okay, she has property. And she has a son. The son and the mother and the son are both in the same house, and the house collapses on them and they both die. Now we don't know who died first, and there's big nafkaminas. There's big nafkaminas because there's big money on the line. Who is going to inherit the mother's property? So nafal abayis olav alimo, if the house fell both on the child and the mother, and they're dead, Yoshea ben omim, so of course the heirs of the son, those who would inherit him, are making the argument ha'em meisa rishona, that the mother died first, and when the mother died, immediately her property then is inherited, right? It needs to go to the son, who's in the meantime still alive. And then the son died. At the time that the son died, he died along with his rights to his mother's property, and therefore the son's heirs are the ones who will get the property. But of course, the mother's heirs are saying the opposite. Habein meis risha. No. The son died first and never inherited the property. And then the mother died, and we, the heirs of the mother, are entitled to the property. Right? So v'yosha eim omer habein meis risha. I think that's the extent of where. I think that's the extent of what I remember from 8th grade. I don't remember the elu ve'elu modim. No. We're done. That's what I remember from 8th grade. Those 3 lines of Gemara. Elu ve'elu modim, and both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, apparently there will be, I think in BavaMetzia, these machlokes about this. Right? Yes, maybe, what, yes, yeah. In BavaMetzia, there's going to be similar cases like this, and machlokes in Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, and both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel admit, both elu modim sheyachloku, that the heirs of the son and the heirs of the mother divide up the property. V'omer Rabbi Akiva, and says Rabbi Akiva, modeh ani bozoi, that I admit, and Rashi says something that was, I don't remember knowing this. Omer Rabbi Akiva, modeh ani boze, says Rashi, about 5 lines before it gets wide. Afal pi shani mishal Beis Shammai. I didn't know that. Rabbi Akiva was from the house of Beis Shammai. Rabbi Akiva was from Beis Shammai. Very interesting. And one of Rabbi Akiva's Rebbeim was Rabbi Eliezer, who was from Beis Shammai. I didn't know that Rabbi Akiva kind of considered himself to be part of Beis Shammai. Very, 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 very interesting. But anyways, so it says Rabbi Akiva, even though I align with Beis Shammai generally, Moda'ani bozei shanachosim b'chezkosim, that the property remains where it is, and it's unclear exactly what that means, that it remains where it is. But the point is that there's a suffix. We don't know who gets the property, and Rabbi Akiva is saying, well, just leave it alone. And yet he's not saying that by the suffix of these 5 victims. There he says each one gets paid. So Omar Lei, so Rav responds to Abaye, Hosam Shema v'Shema, Gozal Echad Mechamisha Bari v'Shema. There's a difference, however. By the theft, when he stole from one of 5 people, that's Bari v'Shema. Each of those 5 are claiming, I am the victim. I'm 100% sure that I am the victim. He's saying, I don't know if you're the victim. So it's Bari v'Shema. Each one is saying, I'm definitely the victim. He's saying, I don't know if you're the victim. Well, Bari Vishema, Bari Odif. And therefore, each one can receive $100. In the case of the collapsed house, the heirs of the son and the heirs of the mother, of course, are arguing that, they know who died first, that they can, whoever serves their interest. But they don't, at the end of the day, they don't really know. So each one is a shema. Each one is a question mark. And therefore, in that case, Rabbi Akiva says, don't do anything. But what about our Mishnah? What about our Mishnah? But what about in our Mishnah where Reuven says to Shimon and Levi, look, I stole from one of you and I don't know which one. And they don't know which one either. The Shema v'Shemahu. That is just one big question mark. And it says over there that he pays each of them a mana. So what's pshat? And how do we know that our Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva? Maybe Rabbi Akiva would disagree with. Maybe Rabbi Akiva does not agree with that Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva would say over there, yeah, he would not pay each of them $100 because it's Shema v'Shema. Well, I'll tell you how I know that the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. We had said it's Rabbi Tarfid, but listen. Because on that situation with the 5 victims, it was taught Moda Reb Tarfin, that even though Reb Tarfin says that when there's 5 people, you just drop it and run, but he nonetheless admits, Be'omer Lishnayim, that when Reuven says to Shimon and Levi, goes out to Lechad Mikem, I stole from one of you, Mano, Venudei, Mikem Chule, but I don't know which one. So there he admits to who? Laman Moda, who's he admitting? To Rabbi Akiva by Plukte, obviously he's admitting to Rabbi Akiva, who argues with him in the situation of the 5 people. Meaning, so by the situation of the 5 people, Rabbi Akiva says you have to pay each of them. Rabbi Tarfin says just drop the money and run. But Rabbi Tarfin admits to Rabbi Akiva when it's Reuven says to Shimon and Levi, I stole from one of you and I'm not sure which one. Which means that obviously Rabbi Akiva holds that way as well. So Rabbi Akiva would say in our Mishnah that he would pay each of them. But why? If we're saying that Rabbi Akiva, it's a matter, you would only pay each of them when it's Bari V'Shema, not Shema V'Shema. But how do we know that our Mishnah is in fact Shema v'Shema, that he's not sure and they're not sure? Well, so firstly, unlike the situation with the 5 people, in our Mishnah it does not say that they are making the claim from him. By the 5 people, each one's claiming from him. We don't say that, right? It doesn't say that in our Mishnah. And more so, Hatani Reb Chia, that in Reb Chia's brises, right, in the Tosefta, when Reb Chia teaches the equivalent of our Mishnah, he says, Zeh Omer, Shimon says, Eini Yodea, I don't know if I'm the victim. V'zeh Omer, Eini Yodea. And Levi also says, I don't know if I'm the victim. So, it's definitely talking about a situation where Reuven doesn't know who he stole from, and Shimon and Levi both don't know that they were stolen from. So it is definitely a situation of Shema v'Shema. So why would Rabbi Akiva be saying that he would pay each of them? Yeah, but we already established earlier, we asked the same kasha according to Reb Tarfin. And we said that our Mishnah is talking about when he wants to be Yotzei Yidei Shamayim. That's why even though it's Shema v'Shema, he wants to kind of put this behind him. He knows that he stole from one of them, and he just doesn't want that on his conscience anymore. So he just wants to put it behind him. So Me'ikar Adin, he doesn't have to pay each of them. But he just wants to put this saga behind him, so that is why he's paying each of them in our Mishnah. Okay. Fine. Where am I? Okay, fine. Omar Le Ravina Le Ravashi. Now says Ravina to Ravashi. Amar Rava. Does Rava really stay? This was about an Amar ago, right? On about halfway through Lam Zayin Amar Aleph. Amar Rava called B'shtei Krichis Havle LeMedak. Does Rava really hold that when Shimon and Levi deposit by Reuven separately, in 2 separate bundles, Reuven should be paying attention? But Rava says, everybody agrees that if 2 people go to a shepherd and they drop off sheep at a shepherd. One dropped off one sheep, the other dropped off two sheep. So each one, of course, gets one sheep. And in terms of the third sheep, that the shepherd doesn't know who it belongs to, and they're both claiming it's theirs, so he just leaves it and runs. But I thought he should have been paying attention. So Amarle, so Rashi responds, well, that's talking about where Shimon and Levi both dropped off the lamb without the shepherd knowing. So therefore, how was he supposed to know who the third one belongs to? But in the event that he knew he was there, and so then he should have been paying attention and he would have been responsible. The Mishnah said, so we had the case of when Shimon and Levi deposit $100 and $200 respectively, and then they both claim the $200. Then we gave another, basically similar, sounds like the same example, but in vessel form. One left a vessel that was $100, the other one left a vessel that was $1,000. Both claim it, both claim the more expensive one. Utsricha, we need both cases. The case of the money and the case of the vessels. So if we would only have the first case, the case of the money, so that is where the Rabbanan say each one gets 100 and then the remaining 100 you wait for Elijah the prophet. Because there's no loss. But by the vessels where you have to break the bigger vessel and ruin it, say to the Gadol, the bigger one's going to get ruined. Maybe they would agree with Rabbi Yossi that all of it should wait for Elijah the prophet. So therefore it's saying no, even there they say break it. The itmar b'ha'im, if we only have the case of the vessel, b'ha'kam Rabbi Yossi, that's where Rabbi Yossi says wait, leave it alone until Elijah the prophet comes. But by the money, maybe you would agree with the money, okay, divide it up and only leave the remaining 100 for Elijah the prophet. Therefore we need both cases, the case of the money as well as the vessel. But maybe you were thinking, but one second, Rabbi Yossi explained to us his rationale, and that was we need to have the shmendrik to have skin in the game. How could we entertain the possibility that maybe when it comes to the money, Rabbi Yossi would admit to the Rabbanan that only the disputed $100 would wait for Elijah the prophet? Then what skin does the shmendrik have in the game? Of course he would say, Rabbi Yossi would say the same thing over there, that all of it waits for Elijah the prophet. Rather both scenarios are for the rabbis. The Rabbanan nitzrich v'lozo avzo katani, and what it's saying is not only this, but even that. Meaning that the rabbis say when Shimon and Levi deposit money by Ruvain, so 100 goes to each of them, and then the outstanding 100 waits for Elijah the prophet. And not only that, even when it comes to a vessel that you would end up breaking the vessel, still they say 100 goes to each, and the rest of it waits for Elijah the prophet. That was a gewaltige daf. That was the daf Lamed Zayin of Masechta BavaMetzia. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Great stuff. We learned some interesting nafkaminas when it comes to Gzela, when it comes to Pikadon. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.